Hello. Good evening. I'm Lydia Winkler, Chair of Student Lectureships. And can everyone take a moment to turn off their cell phones, please? All right. As Student Lectureships was conceived with the sole purpose to illuminate our fellow students, there is no greater achievement than our engagement tonight with Shaka Smart, who represents the best of Kenyon. While at Kenyon, Shaka Smart was a standout point guard on the Lord's basketball team, but was equally impressive in the classroom. The history major graduated both magna cum laude and Phi Beta Kappa. He was an all-conference selection as a senior and is Kenyon's career assist leader with 542. Shaka Smart was also named a member of the 1999 USA Today All-American academic team. Shaka Smart soared to sports fame during the 2011 NCAA Men's Division I basketball tournament when he took Virginia Commonwealth University to the Final Four for the first time in program history. He guided the team back to the NCAA tournament this year. What Shaka Smart has accomplished after Kenyon is not only impressive, but instills confidence in students to go after what they want. And without further ado, please welcome Shaka Smart. Cause I'm coming home again, man, home again. Do you think about me now and then? Do you think about me now and then? Oh, now I'm coming home again. Can you guys hear me? Everybody hear me? It is great to be back. I want to first of all thank Lydia and Ben for getting me here safely from the airport, and thanks for making all the arrangements. When I was presented with the opportunity to come back, I was really excited about it. It's been 7 years since I've been on campus, but the more things change, the more they stay the same. You guys got exams coming up? They're coming up soon? When does that start, Monday? All right, are you stressing out yet? I remember this time of year, and I think back on it fondly. And tell you what, in a week or two from now, you'll feel a whole lot better. I really appreciate everybody coming, and we really want to make this as interactive as possible. So if anyone has anything to say or wants to ask any questions at any point, you can raise your hand or get my attention. This is about, Peter, this is probably about total the number of people that came and watched us play basketball in my 4 years at Kenyon, right? For those of you guys that don't know, Peter Rutkoff is, really, to me, my favorite professor at Kenyon, and even more than that, like a father figure to me. So he is one of the biggest reasons that I'm here and why I've been able to do what I do. And I wanted to start by reading a poem by a guy by the name of Christopher Logue. It's very short, so don't worry. And when I read this poem, I thought of Peter, and I thought of Kenyon. So here goes. Come to the edge, we might fall. Come to the edge, it's too high. Come to the edge. And they came, and he pushed them, and they flew. And that's really what my time at Kenyon, and specifically with Peter, was all about, was just getting the opportunity to grow and stretch as a person. And so I really, I'm glad I have the opportunity to come back and spend some time with you guys and just talk about my experience here. Just real quickly, my background, I'm from Madison, Wisconsin. And I think one of the great things about Kenyon is there's people from all over. I wanted to get away to go to school, so I visited, every school I visited was about at least 5 or 6 hours away, and I wanted to get away and be around a different group of people. When I came to visit, it was in February of my senior year in high school, and it was like 20 degrees below zero here. I appreciate you guys arranging for the great weather today, by the way. And when I came to visit, I was a basketball player, and I was recruited by the basketball coach at the time, a guy by the name of Bill Brown. And he was just a terrific coach and a great recruiter, a great man. But the reason that I chose Kenyon, in addition to Coach Brown, was just the people were so warm and inviting, and really, relative to a lot of other schools that I visited, Kenyon seemed like home. It seemed like a place where I could call home. So I came to Kenyon in 1995, Seems like a long time ago now, Peter. I didn't know what I was going to study. I ended up majoring in history. My freshman year, I lived in McBride. Yeah, I had some interesting experiences in McBride. Still co-ed, right? And then I lived in the new apartments my sophomore, junior, and senior year. And had some fun in the new apartments, too. I spent a lot of time in the library. I think I led, I believe I led all of Kenyon in number of naps taken in the library. Because as I mentioned, I was a history major, and I am not a very fast reader. I'm a slow reader. And in most of the history classes, Peter and Will Scott, thanks for being here, Will. You look the same, man. They would assign these thick books. We had a book every week that we had to read. And it was just, they were good books, but it took a long time to read those books. So I would read about 20, 30 pages in the library, and then they have those nice cushy chairs in there still. And then I'd fall asleep, and I'd wake up and I'd read some more. And then I was informed that they don't serve food anymore at Gund. That's terrible. I would eat breakfast there, and some of my best friends at Kenyon were the ladies that worked at Gund. So I don't know where they are now, Peter, but we may have to run them down while I'm here. And then Pierce. We would usually eat lunch and dinner in Pierce after practice. But I was told you don't have to walk down the runway anymore to get to the area where you get your food. Is that right? I've got some great stories from there. My favorite professors from Kenyon, mentioned Peter, Will Scott, Michael Levine, Rick Sheffield, Marla Coleman, Ted Mason. Anyone had Ted Mason? Okay, I'll tell you real quick Ted Mason's story. Ted Mason, if you've had him in class, he's an English professor. He loves to come into class the first day and intimidate you, right? He wears his three-piece suit, and he has his glasses on. He wears his glasses all the way down his nose, and he looks down at you. And so when I was a freshman, the first class that I ever had, my first day of class as a freshman was English 1. And it's a year-long class, English 1 too, but for English 1 with Ted Mason. I just happened to have Ted Mason. There's a lot of great English professors here. And he really tried to intimidate us that first day of class. I'm sure he still has the same act. And so he says to us, now understand, I went to a public high school in Madison, Wisconsin. It was okay, high school, but I had no idea what I was in for. At Kenyon in general, but specifically with Ted Mason, he says, no one will be getting higher than a B- at the semester in my class. And I raised my hand and I said, I don't think that's fair. I said, if I deserve an A, then I think I should get an A. And there was probably 20 people in the class. And he looked around and he looked at me, he kind of looked down at his glasses and he said, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So then that first day, he gave us a poem, and it was about as long as the poem I just read. It was about 6 or 8 lines. And he said, all right, on Wednesday, I need a 3-page paper on this poem. And I know some of you guys come from great high schools, but where I went to high school, we never read any poetry. And I had no idea what the poem was about. I read it about 100 times that night, and we had to write a paper. So it was a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class. The next class, I turned in the paper. I was all excited, thought I wrote a great paper about the poem. Then the following class after that, he returned the papers, and he said, here's I got a good news and bad news. He said, the good news is I read your papers, and I'm giving you some feedback. He said, the bad news is all of you either got a 2 or 3 out of 10 on your paper. I got a 2. So I guess I was well on my way towards that B minus. At the end of the semester, I got a B minus. Just like you said. So, anyway, when I came to college, I was motivated to do well in school really only by one thing, and that was just wanted to do well for my mom. You know, probably like a lot of you, I was raised that, you know, academics in school is very, very important, and so I wanted to do well for her. She used to tell me when I was younger that if I came home with a bad grade, then I might as well just not even come home. So she taught me well, and so when I got here, that was really my main motivation. My biggest interest was in basketball. I was probably a lot like the guys that I recruit at VCU. I was all about basketball. I used to carry a basketball around here. You remember, Peter? I used to wear, you know, I'd wear basketball jerseys, walk around. People probably thought I was an idiot. But anyway, I was completely motivated academically by my mother, and a great thing happened to me here at Kenyon is I fell in love with learning, and I met a lot of people that really ignited a fire within me to learn, and then later to teach some of the things that I had learned to other people, and that's really what has made me what I am today. So I asked Peter, I said, well, what should I talk about? He said, well, just talk about how Kenyon has made you who you are, and that's the biggest thing, is just the hunger for learning that I acquired here has really made me who I am today, and really owe all that to my professors. You know, people always ask me, what's the best thing about Kenyon College? And I don't say the food at Pierce. I heard they canceled Philander's Fling, by the way. That's crazy. But you did have a good summer send-off, is that right? It was all right? But they're cutting back on the parties. See, I got all my Kenyon intel on the way here. We got to do something about that. I'll tell you what. I'm actually meeting with your president next week at a function in Richmond. So she and I are going to have a talk about this party. Okay, so when I got here, I had no idea what I was going to study. After that first paper returned from Ted Mason, I knew it wasn't going to be English. But, you know, I was just really, really lucky, I guess. My first semester, I had some great professors. I had Dr. Levine in psychology, and I had Will and Peter were my advisors. I had Ted Mason, and a guy by the name of Robert Hinton, is that right? Who's a terrific professor, who's no longer here. And what they really did was they made me think beyond what I had previously thought, and they made me have an extreme hunger for learning more. And I guess I was a little bit different, but I actually liked going to class. And I remember one time I overslept and I missed class because my alarm didn't go off, and I was really mad. I know that seems messed up, but after my freshman year, my coach left. Bill Brown, who's a basketball coach, he left, and he was the main reason that I came to Kenyon, because he recruited me, and I really looked at him as a father figure. And he left, and it was a sad day for me. I remember being really upset, and my first impulse was to leave because he was leaving. But after thinking about it for a little while, there was no way I was going to leave, because after being here for a year, I had been able to make such great friends and build such close relationships with classmates, teammates, professors, and there was no way that I was leaving, even though he left. And you know, Kenyon's been a place that People always ask me, are you glad you went to Kenyon? And my answer is a resounding yes. There's a lot of places where I probably could have gone, and maybe if I would have transferred, I could have gone to a few different spots. But I loved it here, and I'm really, really glad that things worked out the way they did. I mentioned Robert Hinton. My sophomore year, when my sophomore year started, there was 4 African-American professors at Kenyon. I hope you guys are doing a little better than that now, Peter. Not that you're in charge of hiring, but I kind of associate you with Kenyon. So, where's my, there she is, there she is. So anyway, my sophomore year, the school, or the powers that be, decided not to renew 2 of the 4 African-American professors. Remember this? Rick Sheffield, one of my favorite professors, was one of the other 2. And so what happened was this was the first time in my life that I had been a part of something where I was expressing discontent, where I was just expressing displeasure with something that was going on at the university, because I didn't think it was right. I didn't think it was fair. Looking back on it, probably one of those professors maybe wasn't Kenyon material and the other one was. But the point was, I think at Kenyon, what I was allowed to do and what a lot of students here were allowed to do were express themselves and communicate their feelings. And my wife went to Harvard, and so we share college stories all the time. And Harvard's a great place, and obviously there's been some terrific people that have gone there. But some of the things that I was able to do here, and some of the people that were able to listen to thoughts that I had and other students had here, that never happened for my wife at a school like Harvard. You guys should really take advantage of the opportunity that you have here at Kenyon. Your professors are as good as it gets. And I used to go to office hours. You guys go to office hours? Yeah? I used to go to office hours a lot and just hang out with the professors. Maybe, I guess, maybe I was a nerd, but that was a great time for me just to be around somebody that was an expert, in whatever area it was that I was studying, and just to soak in knowledge from that person and be around them. I had several opportunities where professors invited me over to their house for dinner, and again, that just doesn't happen everywhere, and that's one of the things I really, really appreciate about Kenyon. One of the things I preach to our players, and I try not to preach too much, but as a coach you have to do it some, is what I call appreciation to entitlement ratio. And I believe that appreciation should be high and entitlement should be low. And I think in today's culture, particularly the culture from which our players, our student athletes come to us because they're highly regarded athletes, I think sometimes they get that backwards and they believe that they're entitled to a lot of things that they think should come their way because of who they are, because of their background, because of what they can do with a basketball or whatever. And I believe that appreciation should be something that is at the forefront of everybody's mind. And for me, I have a great appreciation for Kenyon. Every day when I go to VCU, where I work, VCU's in the middle of Richmond. It's the capital city of Virginia. Anybody from Richmond here? A couple of Richmond people? Are you a VCU fan? You're probably just saying that. As long as you're not a Richmond Spider fan. Anyway, where I work is, it's about as, you've probably been to VCU. It's about as much the opposite of Kenyon as it could possibly be. It's in downtown. It's, the campus is right on Broad Street, which is the busiest street in the city, and there's 33,000 students. There's a huge medical center. A little bit more diversity than Kenyon. Actually, 43% of the students at VCU are not white. So just a very, very different place. But the student experience there, academically, is so very, very different than the one that you guys have here. And every time that I interact with people on campus, not that we don't have great professors and great people at VCU, I reflect back on my college experience, and I'm very, very appreciative of the people that took an interest in me and were there as part of my life. There was a woman that worked in the library, and I think her name was Priscilla, and I don't believe she's here anymore. And when I wasn't asleep in the library, she used to help me immensely with all the research projects. Professor Sheffield had us do this ridiculous project. It was a great project. Remember those binders? You still do that? You still carry yours? I still have mine. I had these two, some of you guys have had them in class, and I had these two binders that were this thick, and they were all filled with research on a project that I was doing. For me, I did a project on the way that people who come from, for lack of a better term, a mixed racial background identify themselves. So that was a project I was doing for Professor Sheffield's sociology class, and the woman, Priscilla, in the library was the biggest help ever for me, and I think I wore her out. That's probably why she left Kenyon, because of people like me. When I left Kenyon, or actually before I left Kenyon, about my junior year, I decided that I wanted to be a basketball coach. And really before that, I wanted to play in the NBA. I know that sounds pretty, you laugh, Peter. But when I realized I wasn't going to play in the NBA, I decided I wanted to be a basketball coach. And so the coach that recruited me to play here, he had moved on to another school, and we had stayed in touch, and he called everyone Bud. He said, Bud, when you get done at Kenyon, you can come work for me. So that's what I decided to do about my junior year here. I don't think I told anyone until my senior year, but my senior year I told my professors, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to this school called California University of Pennsylvania. We used to tell recruits, this is Coach Smart from California University. We didn't say the Pennsylvania part. But I told my professors that I was going to go to this school, and I was going to be what's called a GA, which is a graduate assistant. I was taking going to take graduate classes, and then also be a coach there. And they were very upset with me. You remember, Peter? Specifically, you. I mean, you. And my professors did not understand why I would do something like that. Peter felt like I was wasting my mind and wasting talent, and it was just a dead-end opportunity for me. Well, you were wrong, Peter. But I didn't really know at the time, but really the career path that I chose is in a lot of ways not any different than the one that you wanted me to follow and the one that you've chosen, which is being a teacher. And that's really what I am. And the reason I'm standing up here is probably because our team, not me, our team has won 84 games in the past 3 years. I'm just lucky I have really talented guys on my team. Coaches get a lot of credit. I think they get too much credit in the college game. We've got good players, that's why we win. But anyway, that's why I'm standing here, and that's what I'm judged on primarily by the public and by the media, is winning and losing. But that's not at all how I judge myself. My job as a coach is quite simply to help our guys, our players, become the best version of themselves on and off the floor, and particularly off the floor. And I think that's really the same job that the professors at Kenyon have, and I think they do a wonderful job of that. And they really helped me over my 4 years become the best version of myself. When I came here, one of the things I tell our freshmen when they first get to college is, you don't know what you don't know. And they look at me like, what are you talking about? Because they don't know. And when I first got here, I didn't know. And that's okay. I mean, that's part of the growth process. But you know, I get judged in my job by whether we win and how many championships we're able to accumulate. But I really think that winning in athletics at the college level, it's a little bit different at the pros. I think winning is a byproduct of helping people grow and making sure people can become their best. I think if we take care of that, if we do our job in that respect, we'll win plenty of games. So, you know, people ask me, well, what would your advice be to Kenyon students? The biggest thing is you've got to find something that you're passionate about, and then you got to follow it. And for me, it happened to be basketball. Now, I love history. I love psychology. I still love learning. I love to read. I'm still a slow reader, and it still puts me to sleep, but I still love to read. But my passion when I was 20, 21 years old was basketball, and I was able to use that and use it as a vehicle to teach and to continue learning and to be around some great people. The great thing for me is 13 years ago I left Kenyon. I was 22 years old, but every year over the last 13 years I've gotten to be around people that are your age. And sometimes they told me today that I couldn't walk into Pierce and just act as a student and go eat. I said, why not? They said, you don't look like you're in college anymore, so not in this outfit. Okay. That's one of the great things about Pierce. You just walk in there and eat. You know, I try to explain that to people. Kenyon, you don't need an ID or anything like that. You just go eat. Here's a few other things that I just thought about in terms of some thoughts that might help you as you're moving forward. There's a great book called The 4 Agreements, and it's a little book. If you read a little bit faster than me, you probably can read it in about an hour and a half. And it's really been helpful for me, and I try to live by the 4 agreements. Here's the 4 agreements. Be impeccable with your word, okay? And that's what I'm still working on. But basically, whatever you say, live by it. And be careful what you say, and be careful the way your words are used. Number 2, take nothing personally. That's very, very difficult, but it's a really good one. I think a lot of times we always think it's about us, but most of the time it's really not. Number 3, make no assumptions. And that's a really good one as well. I think a lot of times there's miscommunication in life, in work, in school, because we assume that we know something or that someone's on the same page as us, and that's just not the case. And then the 4th one is always do your best. And that sounds kind of like a camp speech, but it really is true. So check that book out, The 4 Agreements, and like I said, you can read it in no time. If you're planning on being a part of something with multiple people, which many of you already are, many of you are on sports teams or on different clubs here, you know, you may play an instrument or you may be part of a political group, then you got to understand that what you're doing is you're being a part of something that's bigger and more important than you. And that's what I have to convince our guys of when we embark on our journey as a basketball team, is that our team is much more important than any one of us. And sometimes it takes them a little while to understand that. But it's a good quote that I share with our guys all the time. Well, I try to use quotes sparingly. I have this thick quote list. Okay, it's about 130 pages. If anybody wants it, I'll email it to you. I started collecting quotes about 5 years ago, and I just started adding one or so every day. And now I have all these quotes, and I love reading them because they just remind me about who I am and some of the things that I believe, and just some of the complexities that involve all of us. But this is a quote by a guy named Carlos Castaneda, and he says, self-importance is our greatest enemy. Think about it. What weakens us is feeling offended by the deeds and misdeeds of our fellow man or woman. Our self-importance requires that we spend most of our lives offended by someone. And again, that goes back to one of the 4 agreements, not taking anything personally. But when you commit to something that's bigger than yourself, like a team or an organization, then it's easy to lose that self-importance. So I can tell you, as you move on, you know, whether you're coming back to Kenyon next year or whether you're graduating this year, as you get older, that's going to be a huge component of what you're able to do. My personal philosophy is I try to, every day when I come to work and with everything I do, I try to exude positivity, optimism, and excitement. And there's a lot of different ways to go about what you do. The best professors I had at Kenyon, they came into the classroom every day fired up and excited to teach. Pretty much all of them did. There's a couple that maybe took themselves a little bit too seriously. Is Clifton Cray still here? No? He was one of them. I knew he was gone, that's why I said that. We forgive, but we never forget, Peter. I think it's really important to possess a hunger for learning and self-improvement. You know, it's easy when you've accomplished whatever you've accomplished, whether it's in high school, college, or after college, to feel like you have it figured out. But having that hunger for learning and growing as a person is huge. And that's, we get busy in our lives and we just try to live day by day. But if you can carve out time to make yourself better and learn and improve yourself, then you're going to live a better life. One of the things we talk to our guys about on the court, but I think this really applies to you and your lives or anything that you do, is to be an energy giver and not an energy taker. You guys ever been around an energy taker before? Just someone that just zaps your energy, like, why are you even here? I like energy givers. When we recruit, we go out and recruit players, and we look for people that they lift up those around them. They bring a level of positivity and energy. It's important to treat everyone with kindness. That sounds really basic, but you'll never know who you come in contact with and how they will affect you or someone that loves you or someone that you care about in the future. And that's something that I've learned over the years. I think when I first got to Kenyon, I'll be honest, I was pretty locked in on playing basketball and the guys on my team, and I didn't take enough time initially to get to know everyone. I mean, this is a pretty small place, but there's a lot of great people here. After my junior year, my best friend at Kenyon, he was a teammate, we were connected at the hip. He told me in the summer, he said, "I'm leaving Kenyon." And you remember that? And he didn't give me a chance to talk him out of it. I mean, he had already, because he knew I would talk him out of it. So he was gone, he left. And then I had a girlfriend at the time who went to Kenyon, and she was going abroad. She was going to study abroad, as many of you probably will or have as juniors. So I was losing my girlfriend and my best friend. And actually, it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me, because I had to hang out with somebody. And I got to know so many other people, and I opened up and spent a lot more time around people that maybe I hadn't thought much about or spent much time around in my first 3 years at Kenyon. Whatever you do moving forward, you're going to have a role. And I tell this to our guys all the time. It's important to play your role, but you also have to be ready for role expansion. And for me, I was an assistant coach for 10 years. Coaching is one of those professions where you have to be an apprentice for a long time. I'm lucky, I only had to do it for 10 years. There's some people that are 50 years old and they've been an assistant coach for 20, 30 years and they still haven't gotten a chance to be a head coach. So it was important for me as an assistant coach to play my role, but also be ready for that role to expand. And I think because I thought this way, when I did get a head coaching job, it helped me. The best advice anyone ever gave me when I became a head coach was, you got to be yourself. You got to be yourself. Don't try to be someone you're not. I'll tell you a quick story. When I got to VCU, which is in Richmond, Virginia, the guy I was replacing had been unbelievably successful at VCU. He had won about 75% of his games, just a tremendous success. He was just this really imposing looking figure. And so my athletic director, the first day I was hired, when I went to the press conference, he said, you got to find a way to let these people know that you're in charge and that, that you have a presence. He said, you got to understand, Anthony Grant was the guy I replaced. He said he was 6'5", and he looked like he was chiseled out of stone. He looked like a model. And he said, and you, well, but I think, for me, if I had tried to be something that I wasn't, then that would have got me in trouble. But I learned at Kenyon that, first of all, to be yourself, you have to learn about yourself, and you have to understand what you're all about. Really this list of quotes that I keep, that's, in a lot of ways, that's one of the reasons I do it, is to learn about myself, what I care about, what I think about. And if you spend time on that, that'll allow you to be yourself. I think it's really important to allow yourself to be stretched. There's a comfort zone that all of us have, and that comfort zone may be very small or it may be large. I think one of the things that I do with our players, and this may sound kind of negative, but it's critical for us to do, is I constantly point out the hypocrisy in our players. And we're all hypocrites at times, every one of us in here, because a lot of times we say we want to do X, Y, and Z, but we don't do everything that it takes to reach that goal. So I think that's part of my job, is to just make our players aware of the fact that there may be somewhat of a disconnect between what you're saying and what you're doing. And part of that means allowing yourself to get taken out of your comfort zone. That's one of the things I love about athletics, about basketball, is that to be great and to be highly successful as a team, you have to be uncomfortable. Find and take advantage of mentors. I was very, very lucky here. I was able to find some mentors that I still can rely on to this day. The basketball coach that recruited me to come here is someone that I talk to on a regular basis, someone that I lean on. And a lot of the professors that I had here were great, great friends, great mentors. One of the great things about Kenyon, you guys will appreciate this more when you leave, is you have no choice but to learn how to write here. And when I got here, I had no idea how to write. And I didn't major in English, but regardless of what you major in, you have to learn how to write. And so Peter and Will Scott taught me how to write as it related to history. I remember one time I used the word huge in a paper. Huge. It's a word. And Peter circled the word in red pen like he always did, and he wrote, huge is a sports center word. So I never used huge again in my writing assignments. But the mentors that I had here were just hugely valuable for me. It's really important, and I learned this here in my writing and in other things that I did at Kenyon, to learn from your mistakes. I think mistakes are great portals for discovery. And I think one of the quotes I have in here, I don't have all these memorized, by the way. That's why I carry this around. Actually, I don't typically carry this around, but I brought it here. Albert Einstein said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And so I did that for a while. And I learned while I was here that if you do make a mistake, something doesn't go your way, to really critique it, analyze it. Whether you're, again, coming back to Kenyon next year or moving on to the real world, and this is not the real world, just so you know. Like, this is great. You You should love it. It's like summer camp. But I hope you have something to prove, whatever it is. Whether you want to prove that you're, good at a sport or a great writer or, whatever it is. Again, decide what you're passionate about and decide what you have to prove. For me, I told you when I first got here, I was completely motivated in school because I wanted to do well for my mom. And that changed during my freshman year. I found areas that I really was interested in. And I just wanted to do well in school, so I had something to prove. And that helped me do well. I was very competitive. I wanted to get good grades, but more importantly, I wanted to learn. And if you want to learn, there's really no ceiling. Peter, is that you? You're the only one that she said to turn your cell phones off. He's getting up there in years, so we'll forgive him. For everyone that doesn't know, Peter turns 70, is it next week? Is it next week? June 7th. Peter's been here a long time. Everyone give Peter a round of applause. He's turned 70. Did you not want me to say that? Oh, I might be in trouble now. I wanted to read you a poem. Is that okay? I know I already read a poem, but this is actually one that I wrote. It's not as good as the last one. And I wrote this poem. By the way, I'm not a poet at all. Okay? So do we got any poetry people in here? Any poets in here? Anyone that likes poetry? Okay, so I should skip this poem, you're saying? Okay. My brother won the Cambridge Prize for Poetry. Okay? So it was my brother Josh. He's much smarter than I am. All right? But I had just a brief period of time in my life where I got into poetry and I wrote some poems. I think the first one I wrote was for a girl. I'm not going to read you that one. But anyway, when I was at Kenyon, again, my early years at Kenyon, when I was a freshman, sophomore, I really, sometimes thought that I was a little different and I had a different perspective. And then as I went on at school, I met all kinds of people that actually I had a lot more in common with than I thought. And then as I got out of school, I realized that there is a connection that we all share as Kenyon students. And that's one of the reasons why I came back here. So this poem is kind of about the contrast between the old me, who thought I was different, and the new me that understands that there's a lot of people that maybe think that they're unique, but they have a lot in common. So here we go. I've never really read this to anyone, so I hope this is okay. As I crash through the real and enter what seems surreal, I am stricken by the rarity of this perspective, or so I think. Is what I see and hear, think and feel, so absurdly different from who's next? Or is it that we all feel such a tug of separation? No doubt that in this world even duplication breeds variation, but can one be so uniquely unique in thought and purpose to become a self-study and misunderstanding? Certainly others exist who share such a plight, or at least the paranoia that accompanies anomaly. But does this bond lend itself to kinship or merely a magnified feeling of universal dislocation? Is it that we merely think we're extraordinary, victims of a cruel joke designed by a severely tinted lens? Does each of us star in strikingly similar sitcoms, played out in our own private dialects, all derivatives of the same self-indulging language? While painfully obvious at times, the answer, I suppose, remains a matter of interpretation, a blur much like the line between the surreal and real that I'm about to cross yet again. But as I sprint towards my horizon, I can only wonder, are those that understand on the other side or will the sun set on my failure to see truth? That's my poem. So, before I open up for questions, I wanted to read that just because I think that you and I have a lot in common, and I didn't always know that. You might not know that right now, that how much you have in common with the people next to you, with your professors, with your friends here at Kenyon, with the people that you don't even know. But probably one of the biggest pieces of advice that I would give you would be just to get to know the people around you and understand that your perspective actually is probably very similar to theirs, and getting to know theirs will only help yours. So with that, I heard that, Lydia, there's some questions. Fire away.
Well, I think we're going to have people line up and ask questions at these two mics. We're going to ask for students to go first.
Go ahead, I can hear you.
Hi, Mr. Smart. My name is Russell Levine, and I'm a perspective philosophy major.
All right.
I love basketball, and I'm wondering what opportunities I have as a small liberal arts college student who's studying a humanities class as obscure as philosophy.
What opportunities you'd have in basketball?
Opportunities to involve myself in basketball, like doing video coordination.
Yeah, well, I was the same as you. I studied history instead of philosophy. What does history have to do with basketball? Actually, a lot, and so does philosophy. But if you, if you find something that you love, and if it's basketball and you have a passion for it, then there's ways to explore it. And what I would say is, what I do for a living, coaching, is not for everybody. The hours are long. It's 99% of the time not as glamorous as it seems, but if you have a passion for that, if you have a passion for the video aspect of it, there's ways to do it. If you want to get in touch with me, Peter has all my information, and I'd be happy to communicate with you.
Great, thank you.
Peter, you don't mind being the go-between, do you? He's already mad at me, so I might as well. Go ahead. You a Virginia Tech fan?
I am.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm from Lynchburg, Virginia. I've read that you have developed a way to try to gauge the immeasurable things about prospective players, and I was wondering, what are the things you look for in a student athlete outside of what they do on the floor?
That's a good question. Well, we look for a lot of what we call non-athletic skills. One of them is actually coachability, which seems pretty basic, but can you do what the coach asks you to do, or are you willing to? You'd be surprised. There's a lot of guys that are not very coachable. So I don't want to coach those guys. So that's one of the things we really look for. Toughness is very important. Mental and physical toughness. What we ask our guys to do is pretty extreme. This fall we did this Navy SEAL training where our guys went through, and actually our coaching staff did it as well. We went through the training that the Navy SEALs go through, and it was ridiculously hard. But what it does is it trains your mind and your body. But if you're already a pretty tough guy and you're pretty good at that, competitiveness is very important to me. Looking for people that are just naturally very competitive. So those are a few things. I think we look for unselfishness. Again, are you willing to dedicate yourself to something that's bigger than you, and are you willing to sacrifice? We ask for what's called unconditional buy-in, and that's very, very rare. Buy-in means you're doing what the team needs you to do. Unconditional buy-in means you're doing it no matter what. Whether you're having a good day or you're having a bad day, or you're the star player or the last guy off the bench. And That's rare. That's hard to find, particularly the higher levels that you go. Next question.
Hi. I'm curious what kind of leadership qualities you try and instill in your players.
Leadership qualities. Well, we came up with 5 levels of leadership. And I can send them to you if you want. The first level is what we call, anyone know who Urban Meyer is? Of course you know Urban Meyer is the coach at Ohio State now. Well, when I was at Florida as an assistant coach, he was a head coach at Florida. And Urban Meyer is very, very intelligent and very, very great coach. But he knows that he's a great coach. He lacks the humility gene, I guess. But anyway, he came and spoke to our team. He said, you cannot be a leader until you take care of your own stuff. He didn't say stuff. He used a different word. But anyway, the first level of leadership is what we say is taking care of your own stuff. And it's every day being on time, every day being there for your teammates, every day going to class, doing all the things you're supposed to do. And it sounds basic, but you can't do anything from there after. You can't do anything unless you've accomplished that first level. The second level of leadership is just communication. We love when our guys are just constantly talking, always communicating, and whether it's on the court or off the court. The third level of leadership is work ethic, being a leader through being the hardest worker. And really those first 3 levels of leadership are, I'm not going to say easy, but they're much easier than the last 2. The fourth level of leadership is, can you be unpopular when it's necessary? Can you call your teammates out? Can you say what needs to be said even though the people you're talking to are your friends? That's hard. That's not a lot of players can do that, but if you can find someone that can do that, it's a really big thing. We had something happen with our team about 3 weeks ago where about 9 guys, or 13 guys, about 9 of the guys on our team did something really stupid. And it wasn't really bad. It wasn't anything that maybe some people in here haven't done this year. But anyway, it was a bad choice. And if the one guy on our team that's probably our biggest leader, if he just would have said, we ain't doing that, it's not happening, then it wouldn't have happened. And we use it as a teachable moment. We'll learn from it. But that's the fourth level leadership, is being able to call people out. And then the fifth is just being a complete extension of the coaches. So now you become, you're really one of the coaches. Whatever the coaches instill in you, whatever they talk about doing, your words and your actions are always reflecting that, and you're communicating that with your teammates. So people that have all 5 of those, I call them 5-star leader. I've only coached one guy like that so far. So those are some of the leadership qualities that we look for.
I was wondering how hard it is for you to recruit to like a mid-major school versus like the powerhouses like Kentucky or North Carolina or something like that.
Yes, that's a good question. How hard is it to recruit? It's challenging. I think recruiting is challenging at every level. I was an assistant coach at Florida, which is one of the best programs in the country. It's challenging there because there's just not a lot of prospects that are at the level of what you want. But it's very hard. I'd tell you there's the 2 things that are the most challenging for me in recruiting. Number one, by far, number one is everyone assumes that I'm going to leave VCU. And so they just say, well, you're not going to be there. And my coach left me. So I know what it's like to have your coach leave. And so that's a big challenge. And, I'm not naive. I mean, I'd like to be at VCU a long time, but, will I be there until I'm 70 years old, like Peter? I don't know, but that's a challenge. And then the other challenge is, even though our team has had a lot of success, as you mentioned, we're still in what's called a mid-major conference. Although we may change conferences very soon. I have to check my phone because we may have changed conferences while I was up here speaking. But that's always a challenge because the best players want to play in the best leagues. But we do what we can to overcome those things. We've had 2 guys from our team in the past 3 years go to the NBA, be first-round draft picks, so that helps. And we just try to find people that want to be part of our program as much as we want them to be part of our program.
Hi, my name's Corey. I'm on the Frisbee team, and we just won regionals, so we're going to nationals in a couple of weeks.
Is this Frisbee golf or? So
No, ultimate Frisbee.
Ultimate Frisbee. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I always wanted to play Ultimate Frisbee. I always wanted to play.
Come down. But yeah, so I was wondering what you guys you did for your team to prepare for such a big tournament.
I can hear you.
And and to give us a fiery pump-up speech.
Well, do we have some other members of the team here now? Okay. Well, let's see. When is the is it a tournament or is it Yeah, it's in the 19th. And who are we going up against? What's that? First of all, you got to know your opponent, okay? You got to figure that out, okay? You ever read the book, The Art of War? Okay, I need you between now and the 19th, I need you to read that book, okay? One of the things that it will tell you in The Art of War is you have to know your opponent. You have to know who you're going up against. So you're going to regret that you got up here and asked me this question. But, another thing it says in that book is the first one to the battlefield almost always wins. So be there early, okay? Get there early. You know, I'd say on a serious note, you know, we tell our guys, is it like a single elimination tournament?
If you lose, you go into a loser's bracket.
So you don't want to go in the loser's bracket. Okay. I'll just give you the thing we gave our guys. 3 rules. There's 3 rules in the NCAA tournament. Okay? The first rule is anyone can beat anyone. Okay? So even if you're going up against the #1 ranked ultimate Frisbee team in the nation, you guys can do it. We won this past summer, we won an ESPY award for the biggest upset for us beating Kansas. Nobody thought we could beat Kansas. And so let's say you get out there on the field and this other Frisbee team just looks so imposing, you don't feel like you have any chance. You have a chance, okay? It's kind of like the movie Dumb and Dumber, so you're saying there's a chance, okay? When we played Kansas, they have these 2 guys that are in the NBA now. They're the Morris twins, Marcus and Markieff Morris. They're like 6'11". They have bad breath. They're just nasty guys. And they came to the center circle with the captains come to the center circle before the game. So they were the 2 captains of their team at 6'11". And then our captain was a guy by the name of Joey Rodriguez. And they're 6'11". Joey Rodriguez is 5'2", okay? And so they said to Joey, they said, you guys had a great run, but it's about to end tonight. And Joey came back in the locker room, he shared that with his teammates, and they didn't realize how the fire that they had lit up in him. And his teammates took that and we beat him. We beat him pretty bad, actually. So the second rule of the NCAA tournament was it's either kill or be killed, okay? I hate to sound barbaric, but hey, that's what it is. So if you guys that are going to play, if you got to take somebody out, take them out. You got to do what you got to do to win. Because nobody's going to look back and say, you know, well, that was you were too physical, you were too aggressive, you know, you wanted it too much. You're going to look back and either you're going to say we won or we lost. All right? And then the third rule of the NCAA tournament we used with our guys was excuses get you beat. So the excuse makers go home. So, you know, as you're pumping up your team, you know, just let them know. We're not making any excuses. We're going out there and we're going after these guys. And I look forward to hearing about this. Am I going to see this on SportsCenter or anything? Or? I'll tell you what, Lydia, can you let me know how it ends up? Good, good.
You mentioned that a lot of coaches, assistant coach for decades. Can you explain how you got from assistant coach of California University of Pennsylvania to the head coach of VCU?
Do you want to know all the schools I went to?
Yeah.
I was an assistant coach at 5 schools. I'll rattle them off quickly. I was at Cal PA for 2 years. There's one stoplight there, so there's not really much going on. Yeah, is there one here? There's none here. Yeah, there was none here when I was here. I was telling Lydia and Ben, the great thing about Kenyon is, at least when I went here, I used to walk around. I remember walking around for like 2 months with the same $2 in my backpack. I didn't have any money. I didn't really need any money. Anyway, at Cal PA, this little place in the middle of nowhere, I was there for 2 years. Then I went to University of Dayton. I was really lucky to get an opportunity at Division I school. It's hard to get into Division I coaching if you didn't play Division I or you don't have some sort of connection at Division I. I had worked their basketball camp right when I got out of college, and so I was able to get the job through that. And then I went from Dayton to University of Akron. Just to show you what great professors that I had at Kenyon. We played Akron this past year, and 3 of my professors, Professor Sheffield, Professor Coleman, and Professor Retkoff, all came up to the game. And we won by 1 point. I think the reason we won is because the 3 of them were there. So thank you for being there. And then I went from Akron to Clemson, and it's my first experience being in the South. And I grew up a history major and learning about history, and I hated the South because I learned about all the bad things, supposedly bad things that happened in the South, and there were a lot of bad things that happened in the South, but I actually loved it in South Carolina at Clemson. And I was there for 2 years. Then I went to Florida, University of Florida, and I intended to be at Florida for a long time, like maybe 5, 8 years, because the coach at Florida, to me, is the best coach in the country, a guy by the name of Billy Donovan. But I was there for 10 months, and then VCU, the athletic director of VCU, called me and asked me if I wanted to interview for the job. And I just was very fortunate to interview for the job. So how did I do that? Just a lot of good fortune, being around good people, mentors. Our teams won, so we were able to get some recognition. And then when I did get the opportunity to interview, I was ready to interview, and I was able to fool the guy into thinking I'd be a good coach. And then I kind of figured it out from there. It's hard. I mean, it's very, very competitive. There's there's just short of 350 Division I basketball teams, and there's just tens of thousands of people that want to coach and want to be a head coach. And so it's very tough, and you know, you need good fortune and good luck. So I've been lucky.
VCU has a very distinctive, aggressive defensive style.
Yeah.
I was just wondering how you think that style and how it reflects your philosophy as a coach.
Well, it's a little different than how we played when I was here. You're talking about our style of play, but it's just what I enjoy. I like playing that way. I think the guys like playing that way. It's fun for the fans, and it's just what I know. So I'm kind of an aggressive guy. I don't mind taking risks. I think the style of play we use, it takes a level of control actually out of the coach's hands, both on our side and the other sideline. But that's okay, because we practice that way every day, so our guys are used to playing that way. But it's fun, and we led the nation this year in turnovers forced and steals, and I think our guys really enjoy it. And we've kind of developed a reputation, at least in that region of the country, as being a tough team, a team that goes after people and doesn't look back. So that's why we play that way. Hopefully it won't change, but you have to play a certain way that fits the players that you have. So if you don't have a personnel, you don't have a roster that fits that style of play, then you're in trouble. I've just been fortunate. I've had really good guys that fit that style. I bet you play lacrosse.
Yeah, I do. I love it. How's your experience as a D3 athlete kind of affected how you coach D1?
Yeah, some of the best coaches play Division III. There's a lot of coaches that played Division I and maybe were a little spoiled as athletes. And not that they're not good coaches, but they don't have the same edge that some of us D3 guys have. Our staff is made up of, we have a lot of Division III guys, a lot of people that played at small schools. First of all, you're not on athletic scholarship at Division III, so I think you have a little bit more of an understanding that how valuable a scholarship is. It's at this level, it's the true definition of a student athlete. The student part has to come first, and it does come first. So that's really been helpful for me. I think the fact that I've kind of had to work my way up. I like that I was, just nobody knew who I was, and I didn't know anyone in Division I at all when I first got started. So you kind of have a little bit of a chip on your shoulder. But for me, basketball is basketball, and I think if you love it, whether you play Division III, Division VIII, Division I, it's the same, and that's really been helpful for me.
Hi, Mr. Smart. My name is Ellen Blanchard. I'm an American Studies major.
Right.
So I am.
If I come back to Kenyon and teach, that's what I'm going to teach, and Peter's working on getting me a job.
But you said you haven't been on campus for 7 years, and I'm sure you'd be interested in hearing what the climate is on campus. We had this publication, it's a student initiative called the Project Broken Voices that we had distributed to the campus. But just this morning we were talking about how are we going to distribute it to alumni. So we said, hey, someone's here on campus right now. So I was wondering, can we give this to you?
You sure can.
It's already in your room.
Is this one of the things I need to communicate with the president about?
Okay. You want to?
Thank you.
Hi.
I like your shirt.
Thanks. I'm from Richmond. I've been to VCU games since I was 3. But I was just wondering that after you went to the Final Four in 2011, what you said to your guys after you won the first round game this year.
Well, every time we take the court, we expect to win. And I know that sounds cliche, but we really do. I mean, we think we're going to win. So when we won, we're just on to the next one. And we have a short celebration period in the locker room, and then we just move on. And it's all about preparing for the next game. But I think when there's a level of belief within your program, within your players and your coaches, it's easy to. Once you've accomplished one thing, it's easy to move on to the next thing because we had a larger goal. So really didn't say much. We had this guy that I don't know why he started doing these dances. Okay, so he did, after every win in the NCAA tournament, he would do a dance, and so he did his dance, and then we kind of brought it in and said a few words and moved on to the next one. We had to play 3 games in 5 days when we first started in the NCAA tournament, so we didn't have a lot of time to celebrate. Go ahead. I can hear you. Go ahead.
I couldn't help but notice that a lot of the values that you try to instill in your athletes sound a lot like coach students. And I personally want to congratulate him for what he's done for all the students on campus and his amazing career. But I was wondering what your experience was like trying to bring these values of personal growth to a much more different climate like VCU. And it would be different than what you would see or how it be students at it's like.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a very, very different place, but I think that the people that I work with, our players, they still come to college with hopes and dreams and goals, just like you guys came here with. They're just maybe they have a little more tunnel vision, towards going to the NBA or whatever it is they want to do with the game of basketball. So for me, again, I try to get them to understand that it's about their growth as a person and them becoming the best version of themselves, because if they can do that, then I really think the basketball will take care of itself. So we spend a lot of time period with our players. That's really the foundation of our program, is just spending time and letting them know how much we care about them, how much we love them. I had one guy on my team that both his parents are deceased, and he came to us. He was a ward of the state from where he came, and he did not trust anyone. So the first thing we had to do was kind of break that down, and so I kind of got into this thing where every day I tell him I love him. I just tell him I love him. I know it sounds, you laugh at it, you think that's funny. I know it sounds a little corny, but it's true. But it's amazing what happens when someone like that starts to trust you and realize you care about them beyond more than just what they do on the basketball court. So yeah, VCU is a lot different than Kenyon. The different schools I've been at have been, each place has been its own environment. But the thing that's the same is kids want to learn, kids want to grow. I think the highest form of love is discipline. I think kids actually want discipline. It's just the way you go about it. So it's been good for us. My first year was by far the hardest because I just didn't have a relationship with them. And a lot of times when you come in as a new coach, I told you the old coach was a little more imposing looking than me. He kind of did things through fear, and I do things through relationships. So everyone has their own way of doing it. Go ahead.
Hi. Have you considered moving to the pros? And if so, would you consider coaching the Knicks next year?
I thought you meant moving to the pros as a player. I'm still holding out hope for that. As a coach, I don't think so. I mean, I've always viewed myself as someone that would be best working with, people that are still in the formative years. In the pros, it's all about money and it's all about winning. And I love to win. Peter had me in class, and when I was at Kenyon and when our team lost, the next day in class, I'd come in with this sour look on my face, and it would take me about halfway through the 9:30 class to get past that. But I don't think what I do would fit as well at the professional level. Those guys, they don't want to hear about becoming the best version of themselves. Yeah, I won't be coaching the Knicks, in answer to your question.
It's unfortunate.
I just watched a lot of your games in the NCAA tournament, and I saw you guys lose the national championship, and I lost the state title game myself. And I just want to know, what do you say to your players? How do you get them to come back stronger the next year? You know what I mean?
Yeah. What do you say to your players after you lose a big game? This year we played Indiana in the NCAA tournament, and we had them beat. I mean, it was our game. And our best player was at the foul line shooting 2 shots with less than a minute left, and we had a 3-point lead. So in basketball, that's pretty good. I mean, you got a great chance to win. Well, we lost the game, and he missed both free throws. A couple other things didn't go our way, and we lost the game. So after the game, this is a guy that's been one of the best players of all time at VCU. He scored 1,700 points. His jersey will probably go up in the rafters. But after the game, he cried in the locker room like a baby. I'm not talking about like tears in his eyes. He sobbed. And I was standing there as a coach, and there's nothing to say. I mean, there's really nothing you can do. Really, what I wanted to do at that point was just kind of comfort and console him. So I just kind of put my hand on his head. He had his head down in his hands. And I just told him that we loved him, because he was actually our only senior, so everyone else on the team was back. But then I looked around at the other guys, and I wanted to make sure that they saw the pain that he was feeling and that they remembered that, because sometimes that's the best motivator. The reality is almost everyone's going to lose their last game, unless you win the national championship. And so it's just, what do you do with that loss? And I think for our players, they've been able to use that as motivation and a springboard for the future. So I remind them of that. We've got a guy that missed a shot that would have won us that game. And in a nice way, I remind him of that shot, just to motivate him.
All right, Shaka, this is going to be our last question of the night.
I can only assume that at the level that you're coaching, many of the players have been playing and living and breathing basketball for their entire life. So what do you say to the player that has kind of reached their limit, that has, in a way, burnt out, lost the fire that really ignited them in falling in love with the sport in the first place, and kind of reignite that light in their eyes that made them fall in love with the sport in the first place?
That's a good question. That really hasn't happened for me at VCU. I think we really try to make what we do a lot of fun, and it's a lot of work, but it's a special opportunity. And like I told you, we really preach appreciation. So the 13 guys that we have, their fire only gets stronger and stronger because they love it. If that was to happen, then what I would do is just communicate with that young man that everything you do is a choice. I mean, it's a choice to wake up every day and go to class. It's a choice to be part of this team. You don't have to be here. And I remind our guys of that all the time. Like, you don't have to do this. This is a choice, because I want them to choose to be excellent. I want them to choose to overachieve. I want them to choose to work extremely hard. I think when you lose a fire in one area or another in your life, you've got to understand why. And if you look deep enough, you can understand why that is. And it may be a permanent thing where you need to move on to something else, or it may be temporary where there's other issues that you need to deal with and then get that fire back. But make no mistake about it, if you have a passion for what you're doing, whether it's basketball or school or another sport or whatever it may be, you're going to be much more successful in it. So in recruiting, someone asked about recruiting, we try to recruit guys that they clearly have that. They have that passion, that you can see it in their eyes. And then we just try to cultivate that in 4 years. Now, what does happen is, at the end of 4 years, the vast majority of our players cannot go to the NBA like they thought they were going to. So they got to do something else. And we do have a lot of guys that go overseas and play in Europe. But even if you do that, you're going to do that for what, 5, 7 years? Then you have to, the ball stops bouncing, as I tell our guys. At some point, the ball stops bouncing. And so then what are you going to do next? And that's why, for us, it's critical that our guys graduate from college. I think we'd be using them if they played hard and helped us win all these games, but they didn't graduate. We've had 8 seniors in the time I've been at VCU. All 8 have graduated. And beyond that, I'm constantly challenging these guys about what they would do if they weren't playing basketball. So every one of our guys has already been forced to write out a plan and communicate that plan in terms of what do I want to do with my life if the game of basketball goes away? Because at some point it does. And for me, one of the most sad times of my life was when my career at Kenyon was kind of winding down, and it was like 5 games left, 3 games left, the last game of my career. And really it was because a big part of my identity at that time was as a basketball player. That's who I am. That's what I'm about. But what it forces you to do when a period of time ends in your life, forces you to be about certain other things. And now people pretty much identify me as a basketball coach, but that's not really who I am. It's just what I do. It's what I do for a living. I like it, but there's a lot more to me, just like there's a lot more to everyone else in this room than, you know, maybe the one or two things that you spend the majority of your time on. So I really appreciate everybody having me here. I'll be here for the rest of the evening. I leave tomorrow morning. And definitely look forward to spending some time with some of you and looking around campus a little bit. My gym is gone, the Ernst Center. So I'm looking for that thing that you guys got down there is unbelievable. I'm looking forward to going and taking a look at it. I heard they cracked down on the party, so I guess there won't be much partying going on tonight. We're going to have one at Peter's house, so you guys are all welcome. But I'll be up here for a while if anybody wants to say hi. If I can help anybody here, whether it's someone that wants to get into coaching or, you know, anything that I can be of assistance with, probably the best way to contact me. I'm terrible on email. I've got about 2,000 emails that I still haven't read. I'll give you my cell phone number. It's 804 405 0404. Okay, so text me, or if you call me, I'll get back to you. It might take a little while. I'm good with text. But if I can help you in any way, please don't hesitate to get in contact with me. Don't text me after a loss and get on me now. But I definitely, you know, just am really appreciative of the opportunity to come back and be here with you guys. The last time I was on this stage, I was actually being hypnotized. You guys still have the hypnotist come? That is awesome, isn't it? I mean, that was fun. I did some things that night that I probably haven't done since then. But it's a wonderful opportunity to be back and to be at a place that really did so much for me. And because we're so busy and because of the demands of the job, I haven't been here in a long, long time. But I'm really glad that I'm here now with you guys. So I want to wish everyone the best of luck, and thanks again for coming tonight.
And also, everyone in student lectureships, please stand up. Thank you.